he felt that he was untouchable because of his connections. I'm not saying that it was definitely a big plot to destroy crypto by any means. I don't think that was the case. I think it was a plot to try to leverage what they had to keep going further. And then I think what happened was you had a bunch of disgruntled people between projects that have been screwed over, that have been trying to blow the whistle for a year and a half, several projects that finally are getting attention with channels like BitBoy Crypto bringing on New Genesis, ICP. I think he's bringing on Secret Network. These projects were kind of sabotaged by FTX.
Yes,
the whole connection with Caroline Ellison, being the daughter of Glenn Ellison, who was the economic department head of the Department of Economics at MIT. He was the former boss of Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler is the head of the SEC. He used to be the former chair of the CFTC. There's enough evidence that they can convict him on that alone.
If you want to see more videos and interviews like this from influential people in tech, finance, and sports, subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the bell to be alerted. And go a step further and join the YouTube membership area for early releases of videos like this. I'm out of here.
Thank you for tuning in for today's collaboration video between Rice TVX and CBTV Crypto Blood. We do this often. We've been on each other's channels multiple times. We're going to have links down below for each other's channels. So depending on where you're watching this, whether you're watching on CBTV, make sure you're subscribed to Rice TVX. And if you're watching on Rice TVX, make sure you're subscribed to CBTV. What is going on, my friend?
Hey, man, another day in crypto paradise. All the Frieds killing crypto.
The crazy
Either
Frieds.
it's Fried Bird or if it's Sam Bankman-Fried. I don't, it's just Fried. Who knows? I'm good, man. How are you? Right.
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. We are going to jointly release this on both of our YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey channels. So I personally want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving out there, including you, CB.
Sounds like a murder to me.
I'm going to have links down below for your website, your social media, mine as well. If you're interested in signing up with Crypto Blood's Bloodalytics crypto trading tool, you can get 25% off using the promo code RICETV25 at checkout. So that's RICETV25 at checkout. And I'll have that down below in the video description for people watching on Rice TVX.
Yep.
So what is going on? I mean, like this whole thing that's been on with FTX exchange, this whole debacle has just been a little bit insane. When this took place, I didn't even want to cover it.
Why?
But because I didn't really want to give any attention to Sam Bankman-Fried, and I really thought, and FTX, and I really thought a lot of other channels were doing a great job. But realizing
I feel that way a lot of times too.
Well, this was initially, but because of how impactful this thing is and still will be, in my opinion, it definitely needs to be spoken about as mainly a warning to people in cryptocurrency. And I've been using it as a way to promote self-custody, using a cryptocurrency wallet that you possess and control your private keys, getting your crypto off exchanges if you're not actively trading, not utilizing custodial services right now, especially in uncertain times when we're not really sure who exactly has had exposure. FTX. There's a lot of entities.
Ledger prices are out of the roof.
They're giving away, actually. I don't have affiliate link hooked up. Do you have an affiliate link?
I have one. BitBoy and crew hooked me up with one, and I never ever did it because I'm like, it really
mine expired. I had one. Mine expired. So okay. I need to get mine up, but I still encourage people to go to the Ledger website. The other thing I want to tell people, and tell me if you agree about this, CB, when you buy a hardware wallet, you should always buy directly from the manufacturer and not a third party, not Amazon, anything that you think you're saving a little bit of money. And right now, if you buy directly from Ledger, I think with the Ledger Nano X, they're giving away $30 in Bitcoin. And with the Ledger Nano S, which does not have the Bluetooth technology and you have to use the cords specifically, I think you get $20 in Bitcoin. So you're already getting that back off of the top of the price.
Yes,
so
please buy direct, guys. And maybe Rice can go into why, but it is very important.
Well, ultimately,
let's horror stories.
Wrapping equipment that somebody could take a product, open it up, tinker with it, and be able to put it back inside of its box and shrink wrap it in a way that you wouldn't even think anything had been done to the device. And you might be you might happen to have a ledger that you bought from a third party that's got some sort of malware, spyware that's going to allow for them to be able to hack into your computer and be able to get your security information. And that's I did put a video out. When people watch this, it'll be 2 days ago, but I put it out last night at the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency wallets, talking about hot wallets, the different types for desktop, laptop, smart devices, and then cold wallets, which includes your hardware wallet, your cold storage, and your paper wallets, and then your good old brain wallet as well. So I encourage people to check out that video. But yeah, this FTX thing, man, it's I didn't think it was going to go as deep as it had initially until I started doing some digging in.
Perfectly honest with you, I of course knew about FTX because I would see it on the Miami Heat Stadium down in Miami, and you hear about it, but I knew very little about FTX up until this scandal, because we're not in the we're not mainstream consumers or players in crypto and the blockchain space. We're kind of behind the scenes. We don't really pay attention to the Brady's of the world, the Shaqs of the world promoting. I don't have cable, right? I consume all my information and even entertainment on either a Tubi or YouTube. I don't even really watch Netflix that much, so I missed all the fanfare about FTX.
Well, me personally, I don't use Coinbase Pro. I don't use Gemini. I don't use Kraken. I have accounts set up. I don't use these exchanges. Kraken is a good exchange, but I don't utilize it. And a lot of it is, to me, it seems more on, especially FTX, it felt like it was more on the traditional side of investments. And with that being said, I just don't like supporting centralized exchanges that I feel are supremely tied to the legacy systems. I've been a big fan of KuCoin. You've mentioned Fairdesk, and BitGet has been coming up a lot lately. It's Fairdesk, that's right.
Fairdesk is who I use for Bloodlytics. A fairly new exchange, but I mean, I talk closely with a lot of the higher ups in the company. I mean, hey, you just don't know. I even tell my Bloodlytics people, look, keep what you want as your principal in the exchange, and every week, if we have a profitable week, or every month, I would do every week, take out whatever is above that principal and just keep trading that principal, because I just can't trust anyone at this juncture. I would give it another really 60 days, 90 days before I feel comfortable saying, okay, this dust has settled, at least with the exchanges directly. By then, you will be out of business if you weren't sufficiently capitalized from a hit like that from FTX, if you had any exposure to it. So I think in another 60 days, 90 days, we should be somewhat in the clear. Not saying people should be relaxed or become more laxed again.
No.
But you're going to need to have funds. If you're an active trader, you got to have them on the exchange.
That's why I say specifically, do not leave your crypto on an exchange unless you are actively trading and you're willing to lose what you're actively trading. If it's something that you can afford to lose. But if you're actively trading your rent money, I wouldn't suggest that it's a good idea in these uncertain times.
No.
It's just, we don't know what kind of exposure people are going to have. And then we have, unfortunately, which we'll get into, the potential regulation that's going to come from this, even though it seems like a lot of government officials had their hands dirty as fuck.
Yep.
I'm not sure how our legal system is going to work. I'm looking to see how law prevails in this situation. There's a lot of information coming out. I did interview BitBoy last week, Ben Armstrong, to kind of get a
great interview.
And we talked afterwards. He gave me some insight of some things he couldn't share publicly. And ultimately, it looks like he's going to be putting together, and he did share this, he's going to be putting together all that information for different content creators, influencers, and the Department of Justice. He mentioned yesterday on a live stream, I think it was yesterday, it could have been Monday, there was some guy that came out on Twitter that doxed him. I don't know if you saw this. Put out his home address.
BitBoy?
Yeah, put out his home address and stuff like that.
Who did?
I don't know the guy's name. Ben talked about it on one of his live streams. It was either Monday or Tuesday. And he was talking about giving some information about this guy to the FBI because he had already had a meeting set up with the FBI, because I'm assuming he's going to be giving whatever evidence that he's collected. Because ultimately what I was asking him is, we see, and I definitely want to discuss this, we see the possibility of money laundering from a partnership with Ukraine and FTX, with money being funneled back to the Democratic Party. Sam Bankman-Fried being the second largest donor to the Democratic Party overall, past Jorge Soros. Got to be careful with the words since we're going to put this on YouTube. I think you know what I'm talking about, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Soros. And so he's the largest contributor donor to the Democratic Party, and Sam Bankman-Fried's right after that. Then we have the SEC Gary Gensler stuff, which makes it seem like he was helping FTX to get through a bunch of legal loopholes.
You know what we should do? We should do, a lot of people, and this is going on YouTube, so I'll have to maybe mention this on our next video that's going on Rumble regarding taxes and stuff like that, right? And I'll talk to you offline about a conversation I had with someone we both know.
Okay.
I think we should do a video, get an attorney on, have him inform the people about trusts and blind trusts and having those set up, because
this is something I study with the law stuff, right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's private versus public trust, charitable remainder trust, CREs, charitable remainder trust, CRTs, excuse me. There's a couple different ones, and if you do it correctly, because there are some people that are doing it and paying taxes, and I'm like, why are you paying taxes on a trust? Because technically, if you do a trust the right way in a private, it's tax exempt.
Not only that, and again, we can talk about that part of it on another video, but really what's applicable here, Rice, to me, is the whole situation with Ben being doxxed. You've heard the saying, own nothing, control everything. I think we should be more than ever. We need to, as crypto people, we need to start playing that game, that side of the game, having things in trust, having things in blind trust.
Well, in theory, Ben Armstrong could have had his home in a different name.
That's where I'm going.
Because you can do a DBA, or doing business as. Yeah, what we need to specifically do is do an episode focused on legality, trust, taxes.
Yes.
I think that would be really good, especially from our perspective.
This is one thing I love what Ben is doing. Courageous for him to be going this direction, and it's necessary. I just want him to be careful.
Well, he's taking it further. The Kevin O'Leary thing. Now I think he's talking about going after a few other people. And if you go after enough rich people, I mean, they can just combine forces and...
Exactly. I just want him to be careful, bro.
Yeah. Well, he's already talking about potential security. So I think he knew what he was getting into. And also on the political front, what he's trying to do with fighting legislative, like bringing positive legislation to the forefront, whether it's on a state or federal level. Those are things too that I want to talk with you about more privately, that we can expose information to people as more information is solid that we can share. But the other thing too with the FTX is, and this is what I haven't been focusing as much on, because Ben's been doing a great job, and after having a conversation with Ben, I didn't really see a need to. I want to focus more on this money laundering and corruption with the SEC, because I think those are important. But what Ben was saying in that interview was he just wants to see Sam Bankman-Fried do jail time, because obviously he's committed crimes, right?
Yeah,
and he says
he's gonna do jail. I don't think we have to worry about that. I could put up big money to say he will do jail time. The issue is how much jail time.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. If he's got to do a lot of time, how much is he going to be
I don't think he's
compliant with giving information? Like with basically saying who helped him because he's trying to reduce his sentence.
I have to take the other side of that coin, Rice. I don't think this was some big conspiratorial plot. I don't. The conspiracy part of this, conspiracy fact part of this, is that yes, he was colluding with the SEC, Gary Gensler, to basically take over the Carter. He wanted to have the crypto Carter. He wanted to have it all on locks, everything coming
like
through
the
him,
crypto cartel.
right?
Like just control
or
it.
Or the laws and regulations in a grossly favorable for him. That's where the conspiracy theory is, or fact, to me. Now, this whole take down crypto and not, I don't think that was part of the plan. Because let me ask you this: what good is it for him to have blown up his own exchange, his Alameda research? What good is that out of this for him if the whole point was for him to take over power and be the main head honcho in the crypto space?
I don't know if the whole power thing was because he felt that he was untouchable because of his connections. Because just looking at things from what I'm understanding from attorneys, the CEO that took over, everything, and even CZ with Binance looking at the, kind of looking at an overall profile of the company and kind of giving a clear understanding of what it looks like on paper. And a lot of people have said that that's a mess. What we have a former, is it the CEO who took Sam Bankman-Fried's spot, was involved with the
Enron.
bankruptcy of Enron and said this looks way worse.
Sure.
On paper, right. Not necessarily the dollar amount, but just as far as the accounting.
The mess. Yes.
So I'm not sure, man. I'm not saying that it was definitely a big plot to destroy crypto by any means. I don't think that was the case. I think it was a plot to try to leverage what they had to keep going further. And then I think what happened was you had a bunch of disgruntled people between projects that have been screwed over, that have been trying to blow the whistle for a year and a half, several projects that finally are getting attention with channels like BitBoy Crypto bringing on New Genesis, ICP. I think he's bringing on Secret Network. These projects were kind of sabotaged by FTX. And that was kind of getting back to what I was saying, was he thinks that there's enough evidence just on companies and projects that were working with FTX or Alameda that were screwed over in legal ways, unlawful ways, that there's enough evidence that they can convict him on that alone. And then the SEC and the money laundering, if there's any legitimacy and proof that can be provided to that, then that could just add on extra time that he would serve for multiple different charges. So
he's doing.
But there was some sort of mastermind shit going on, though, dude. Like the whole connection with Caroline Ellison, being the daughter of Glenn Ellison, who he is the economic. What is it? Let me see here. I have it written down.
Yeah, definitely.
He is the department head of the Department of Economics at MIT. He was the former boss of Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler is the head of the SEC. He used to be the former chair of the CFTC. So between the four of them, including Sam Bankman-Fried, who apparently had some sort of relationship, sexual relations, in addition to business relations with Caroline, I love Harry Potter Ellison. I know, that's totally your type.
Oh my God, it made me throw up in my mouth.
But between the four of those, there's something going on. I mean, even if
there was some mastermind,
regardless of the Ukraine Democrat thing, which may not be the easiest thing to prove, hopefully there's enough chain analysis and people can. Because one thing I will say about the crypto community that I'm really proud of is that we've come together in a way where people are now doing all this independent research and bringing it all to the forefront for everybody to be able to share this information, to expose this information, to get this out.
Fuck the crypto community.
Really?
Yeah, really. It's a bunch of nonsense, bro. They're just they bandwagon hop.
There are people that legitimately care, and there are people that legitimately do research and try to expose companies. I'm not talking about the general crypto community as a whole. I'm talking about the community that's come to the forefront to really expose things and kind of keep the public image right now of crypto is not good. Mainstream news is trying to push a very negative spin on this.
About this rice for so long, and you have to. Even going back to 17 when we started our channels, we saw the compromising that the community was doing. They wanted regulation. They wanted these monsters in our space.
Not the whole entire community. There were people like me and you. We were the minority in the community.
But we didn't have the resources or the outlet or the footprint to make a change. I'm talking about the ones that had the resources and the outlet and the footprint to make it known and make some real changes.
Right.
They were championing for Wall Street to come in. They were championing for regulation. They were championing for proper taxation and all of that stuff.
Well, you know how I've been feeling. I mean, I told you before that over the past, like just seeing crypto over the past few years, how it seems to be sucking the tit of the legacy system, working, you know, with banks, working. You have one of the co-founders of Ethereum writing white papers for central bank digital currencies. Those were the things that was really kind of making me throw up in my mouth, that I was really feeling sour about. But now I will tell you, this has kind of changed my perspective a little bit, because I feel, here's the one thing. You have Celsius, Voyager, and FTX. I'm just going to use those three as an example. What do they all three have in common?
Celsius, Voyager, FTX, digital, whatever they're called.
Well, they're all centralized. They're all centralized entities. So we're not seeing a failure of decentralized entities. We're seeing a failure of centralized entities, which
and I'm glad.
And we're seeing the failure of the legacy system coming into crypto.
Yeah.
Whether it was something that it wasn't something that crypto did, but it was them coming in with that mentality, that fractional reserve banking mentality, paper trading, that mentality, and really screwed up a lot of things with crypto because they weren't doing things legitimate. And then the other good things we got coming out of this is the proof of reserves. You know, now people are pulling off crypto off of exchanges because of channels like ours. You know, really encouraging people to not leave their crypto on an exchange. It's not a wallet if you're not actively trading and you can't afford to lose that money. So there are a lot of positive things that are coming out of it. Just the main thing that we're going to have to do is when we come back into the next bull market and we have a bunch of new people onboarding back into crypto, we could have this cycle repeat itself if we don't learn from previous mistakes. So we need to still keep this verbiage out. And I'm really glad that we're starting to talk about not your keys, not your crypto again. And it's like almost making Trace Mayer's proof of keys that he was doing on the 3rd of January, encouraging everybody to pull your crypto off on the 3rd of January, which is the day the Genesis block came out.
Where is he, bro?
I'm not sure, but we should make proof of keys every day. You know,
you know, he was such a big, even for me, when I jumped in 2013, bro, he was very a vocal person, man. And really, to be honest with you, the first person I ever heard say Bitcoin to $1 million.
Trace Mayer.
I don't know where he is. He just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Let me see, the last since 2020, since like February of 2020.
What's going on, my
It's
G?
interesting. I mean, he could have decided to detox, who knows? But he was the one that was really pushing for people to get their crypto off of exchanges. That's the day that Bitcoin was first mined, the creation of the Genesis block, January 3rd. And so I think it's good that we've been bringing that aspect back. There is a large amount of chain analysis showing withdrawal from exchanges and people putting into wallets that I'm going to assume they have possession and control of their private keys. So there's a lot of good things that I think are coming out of it. And then, you know, there's enough people that are pushing that this isn't about the technology. This is about greedy people who are doing screwed up things. And ultimately, with the right people, and that's something, again, that Ben Armstrong is doing with the legislation and talking to these different politicians. With the right legislation, we can shape things to go in a more positive direction. I'm not a fan of regulation. You're not a fan of regulation. But the thing that we have to come to terms with and realize is there's going to be regulation.
Okay, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
So if we can have people help shape that regulation into a more positive direction that doesn't hinder it, because what we were seeing that was going to be happening from Chuck Schumer and Sam Bankman-Fried's initiative was basically, if you were in crypto and you weren't part of the legacy system, you were pretty much going to be screwed, and it was going to screw a lot of things peer to peer, and it wouldn't have made me want to live in this country anymore. So I want to do my best to try to help push through positive legislation for crypto before I try to make that jump of saying I'm just leaving this country because this country is limiting what I can and can't do with my financial freedom.
One second, right? 1 second.
So we're at just a really crazy point, with everything that's going on. So
so let me just make this point about what you were saying about regulation. No, you don't want it. I don't want it. But we all have to be. I try to be a hyper realist. Okay. Yes, ideally, optimistically, no regulation. That ain't gonna happen, right? So what I have is that once you introduce regulation, there is no. I've never seen a scenario, and maybe help me out. I've never seen a scenario where you introduce regulation in a new industry and then it just stops there. That's the problem. It just inches forward and forward and forward. It's just human nature to continually regulate, and then consequently at some point in the future you end up over-regulating. So that's my fear, and that's why I don't want regulation, but we're going to get it, and it's going to be over-regulated. As Mrs. Anessa Santos said on my channel.
If we were to go the course that we're going, I would say, yeah. I think that more of us that are getting involved in the political game, whether it's political action committees, a PAC, Ben's done him as a reference, because one of the things that he
before him, I think.
Well, kind of simultaneously, it was more of a simultaneous thing. It was kind of, I was getting some ideas off some of the things that he was talking about, and then throwing back some feedback, because I'd like to get involved, but in a sideways type situation, like try to create act that could work in conjunction. Okay. But ultimately, I mean, like the more of us that can get involved in DC and help shape legislation by educating politicians, letting them know the pros and cons, seeing the benefit, and seeing that they're also not regulating the present, but they're regulating the future, and talk about their kids and their grandkids and how much these innovations will change the lives of those individuals if you don't see the disruption yourself. And I think the more of us that can do that, I think, like you said, and like I said, the regulation is going to come. But if we can have people really championing cryptocurrency, there are other industries that have pushed through via lobbying and stuff like that, positive legislation for their industries. So the more that we can try to combat things that are going to hinder the industry, that is going to hinder the nation as a whole, because we know that the digital economy is here and it's not going anywhere. So America needs to get on board more than just test piloting a digital dollar CBDC.
Yeah.
So, the timeline for this FTX thing is just absolutely crazy, how this thing has played out, over the course.
Did it happen on the Beaver Blood Moon the day after?
So some of the events, because this let me look on my calendar here.
When shit hit the fan,
Monday the 7th, that night when you went to bed, there was that blood moon, the Beaver Blood Moon. But it was really technically the morning,
moon, guys. Thank you.
It was the morning of the 8th, in the middle of the night.
But come on, man.
And that was also election day too.
Depending on your time zone, I mean.
But now this really technically started on November 2nd in the media.
I know, but we didn't. And the media did.
Because CoinDesk and as much as I'm not a fan of CoinDesk because they're owned by Digital Currency Group, and I think CoinDesk has sponsorship from FTX.
They kicked my guy Isaiah Thomas.
I know.
Isaiah not Thomas. Isaiah
Bitcoin
Thomas.
Zay.
Isaiah Jackson off. Right. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit too. Well,
I've talked to him.
We're not on censor here, guys.
Me and him have talked about scheduling, so we just got to figure out the day. But I thought I was really surprised that CoinDesk was the one that published an article raising concerns about the financial health of FTX and Alameda.
Very shocking, because if you guys don't know, Digital Currency Group owns CoinDesk, who owns, like, they're all in bed together. So it was really a self-inflicted gunshot wound for them to publish that type of information. And
it shows too a little bit more that they're trying to do real media, because that's what media.
Maybe it slipped. You don't think it may have just slipped through the cracks?
Not something like that. No. Not really. Not releasing financial uncertainty about Alameda and FTX. And then apparently, talking to Ben Armstrong, he had known a lot of this information, was collecting information, and wanted to drizzle it out But instead of him being able to drizzle out the information, CZ came in and talked about dumping his FTT tokens. And that's what really kind of escalated everything.
Which day did that happen?
That happened on, it says the 6th. That's when he talked about. So that would be 2 days before the Beaver Blood Moon.
Okay.
And if you haven't watched my video, dude, you got to watch my video with this guy, Waters Above, and I'll hook you up with him if you're interested. But this is the guy that does the technical analysis with gematria, numerology, and astrology.
Okay.
It's pretty wild. And he's actually mentioned a lot of things that have happened. Like he talks about the importance of lunar and solar cycles, phases, and how they impact crypto specifically. Because what's really interesting is the last lunar eclipse that we had was when Terra Luna went down. And then apparently there's connection to FTX with apparently being responsible for the downfall of Terra Luna, which, you know, I'd love to learn more about that as more information is exposed. But, you know, you had CZ talking about dumping. So he said, as part of Binance's exit from FTX equity last year, so they had originally invested in FTX when they first started up. Binance received roughly 2.1 billion USD equivalent in cash and BUSD and FTT. And due to the recent revelations that have come to light, we have decided to liquidate any remaining FTT on our books. There was more tweets from that, but basically Sam Bankman-Fried was talking about funds are good. Alameda was talking about we'll buy your FTT. He wouldn't sell it to them directly. And then all of a sudden, I think it was it this day? Was it the 8th? So yeah, it was the 8th, the day of the blood moon is when I woke up and it seemed like CZ and Binance was going to acquire FTX. And they had a letter of intention, which didn't bind them legally to buying it, but gave them an option to look at the books and look at everything to make sure it was something that they wanted to do as a business move. And then after doing that, as a result of corporate due diligence, as well as the latest news reports regarding mishandled customer funds and alleged U.S. agency investigations, we had decided that we will not pursue the potential acquisition of FTX.com.
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think that was going to happen.
You thought he was going to really buy it?
Yes. Yeah.
He may have if there wasn't such a hole, because apparently there was billions of dollars, or I mean, I don't think it was millions. I think there was like billions of dollars missing from their accounting.
Right, which was probably over in Alameda. You know, so here's the thing. I thought he was still going to do it for the sake of.
And they conveniently shop in the Bahamas to save crypto.
Yeah, I thought he was going to do it to save crypto. I actually thought this was going to go down much further as far as the price of Bitcoin and the crypto market cap. I thought a non-purchase event was going to give us that capitulation moment. I really did.
It did surprise me we didn't hit lower. The lowest I think we got was somewhere around the 5.5.
15. Yeah.
15.4. I'm not saying 5.5. 15.5, 15.4. What was the actual low? Do you remember?
15.4, somewhere around there.
So, I mean, some of it could be because big traders had their shit locked up on exchanges they can't withdraw from.
That's another thing. That is another,
speculation
of mine.
Because you would think it would affect the entire crypto market, and because there's also a bunch of Ethereum that's locked up that people can't get, they can't liquidate their Ethereum either. So a lot of crypto has held its price really well because I feel like people are limited on how they can and can't trade.
Yep, that's exactly what I came to the same
if there was otherwise I think that we would have seen a lot lower of a price. Now, I still think that's
so
coming.
Now my question to you, Rice, is when those funds, not with FTX, because that's going to take years and years, but maybe some of the other funds, are there any other funds? We have Mt. Gox funds that still have not been distributed.
Right.
Will that cause, that is another headwind that we have to play out. So that's why I think we ultimately do end up going lower. The timing of that could be next year, first quarter, end of first, who knows? I'm not trying to give you a prediction here.
You can't really time the market. We're really in uncertain times.
I just try to paint
because you're not factoring
macro.
in. Well, I'm saying you're not factoring in global macroeconomics as well. You're looking at things specifically from crypto perspective.
Exactly. So there are headwinds from a global macro economic standpoint that we still haven't seen play out either. So it's a lot, man.
We still don't know what's going to happen with the Genesis Lending, the institutional lending company. We don't know how that's going to ultimately affect Digital Currency Group, which has their hands in a lot of things in the cryptocurrency space. We don't know, again, all the companies that have had exposure and how much that's going to affect people, because I'm sure there's going to be some people trying to scramble around and not have information get out publicly that will make its way. That's why I really am just encouraging people to just be smart with the crypto that they have. The other thing that is really alarming about the FTX Alameda thing is, you mentioned the Frieds, that Dan Friedberg guy, who was general counsel for FTX, who
can't make this shit up, bro.
And if you look, I mean, it looks like, he was brought in, or, he was definitely a part of this. That's why I say, like, it doesn't seem like there was a plan to ruin crypto, but it definitely seemed like these guys were conspiring behind the scenes to do some shady ass shit. I mean, using customer funds, transferring funds back and forth between companies, offshore entities. I think you've heard about the multi-million-dollar home in Bahamas. His parents, their political connections, their compliant attorneys. I mean, this shit goes really deep, and that's why I would really like to see. I mean, me and you have talked. Insider trading is technically illegal, right?
Yes. Well,
but yet,
I'm not sure.
Not if it's your family member doing it, right?
That, and is it illegal in crypto yet? Like, it's so much.
Well, the reason I'm bringing this up is because we've seen Federal Reserve chairs and we've seen various politicians, including family members, whether there was legislation passed for those politicians, but there wasn't legislation passed for these federal chairs that were doing insider trading, that were given the option to just step down and not have any legal repercussion. So I bring up the insider trading thing because I tweeted out, let's see how our legal system actually works with all this stuff that's going on. Because we've seen things happen that are illegal, that have been swept under the rug. Is the same thing going to happen with this situation? If enough people are able to expose this information and get it out there, are they going to be able to shut everybody up? Are they going to have to do something? So that's what's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm really paying attention to Maxine Waters and seeing what she's going to be doing with her investigation, being that she received something like $300,000 or something like that in donations from Sam Bankman-Fried. I mean, it's crazy that we have people that are attached to these individuals being the ones to do the investigating on these individuals.
How does that happen, bro?
It's like you investigating me.
How legally does that not? I'm sorry.
What is that?
That's my trading alert.
Oh, okay.
So how does she not recuse herself, or whatever the term is, from a case or an investigation? Like, you know why, and you know better than me. You can explain this, because in Congress and in the House and all of that, they don't abide by the same judicial laws. Am I correct? That a normal court would.
I don't know 100%, but that would mean that they would, if that's correct, they would be under what we would call Article 3 courts, which would be more of a common law court. Which a common law court, if you don't have a victim, there's no crime. If you don't harm anyone, there's no crime. So I've questioned why some politicians haven't been convicted, for sure. Senator Warren, I think she's coming out talking. She retweeted some stuff about FTX. She's come out talking about FTX, but yet her daughter was or is an intern for the SEC, from what I'm understanding. So I mean, she's talking about the FTX collapse. This is from a day ago. FTX collapse should be a wake-up call at SEC government, at Justice Department, at U.S. Treasury. Should use their expansive authority to crack down hard on crypto fraud. Congress must close loopholes and back up these financial cops on the beat with more resources.
Let me just interject on that, because this is exactly what Anessa was saying in my interview that will be public, might be tomorrow or probably Friday. I went public for my YouTube members. today, day before Thanksgiving. But this is the conflicting story that we're getting. She's in this space, blockchain lawyer, been doing it for many years now. She knows and studies the laws and regulations around crypto. She says this is so not the case. There is so much regulatory guideline. Guys, there are so many regulatory guidelines for cryptos as it stands today, Rice. And she's like, we don't need more. It's already overregulated.
But then why is everybody saying that we don't have any clarification on regulation if it's overregulated already?
I don't know. They're not lawyers. We hear this happening. We hear this from.
Because I'd love to get her take on what the clarification is. If we're already overregulated.
Listen, there are people literally right now in jail for trading Bitcoin. And this is not, I'm not talking about Ross. I'm talking about as of the last 2 years, people in jail. A Florida guy, I think, or a Georgia citizen is in jail right now for this.
Well, there were a lot of people who got put in jail for, I knew a couple individuals that were selling Bitcoin on localbitcoins.com, selling to undercover government agents. Some information was exchanged that also helped to solidify cases, like this money came from drug distribution and this is how I'm going to buy these Bitcoin from you. And they don't have money transmittal license. Yeah. And they get convicted of not having a money transmittal license and money laundering and other things like that, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And I've tried to support anybody that I could, because that's just a peer-to-peer transaction. That's what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency was technically created for. And that's technically what I would love to see us get back to. Now, as a trader, I know that you don't like this, but I would love to see no exchanges existing and us just utilizing the cryptocurrency. It can go up and down in value, but we don't have to swing trade it necessarily. But if it's what people use. No,
that's an unrealistic.
I wouldn't mind spending my Litecoin, my Dogecoin. Totally wouldn't mind that.
In free markets, you're going to have arbitrage regardless.
Right. I know they're going to exist, but I'm just saying it seems like that seems to be the main purpose for cryptocurrency's existence, is so people can trade it and make more money. But if it became our form of currency that we were using for everyday transactions and a way to exchange value, then it would go back to the original vision of what Satoshi wanted, which was peer-to-peer. And it doesn't have to be Bitcoin specifically. It could be like what we talked about, Dogecoin being an inflationary cryptocurrency where there's an infinite supply. But what is your overall thoughts, I guess, wrapping up today's video at this, what are your overall thoughts with the market overall, with FTX, the aftermath, the contagion, and what's to come?
Yeah,
from a cryptodamus perspective, that's what we need, is a little cryptodamus.
I think, Rice, that we still have a few more weeks, maybe months left to figure out what's going on. If you recall, and I hear people always talking about and making this same analogy or comparison to Bear Stearns, right, and Lehman Brothers. There was about a 6-month gap between Bear Stearns going down and Lehman Brothers. And so many people are comparing what we're going through right now in the space to something akin to that event that happened in 08. And it's possible, history doesn't rhyme or repeat, but it does rhyme. And maybe it's not 6 months, because in that TradFi industry, there's a lot of regulatory things going on. There's a lot more centralized control. So they could have covered it up and kicked the can another 6 months. So I don't think it's going to take that long, because we're in a different market. This is a different industry.
Faster moving.
There are no bailouts. There are no people plunge protection teams or anything like that. So probably another 6 weeks before we find out where all the dead bodies are buried. And at that point, we can start to build a base.
To reevaluate.
That doesn't mean we don't go lower, but maybe we start to trend in a range. Maybe it's a 15, 20%, 30% range for cryptos for a while, a year or so. It happened in 2015 to 16, into 16 and going into 17. It was just a dead market. It wasn't really too much going on from a price perspective. Now, this go around is different. There are a lot of people building great projects and companies, so the development is going to continue. But yeah, the next 6 weeks I think are going to be telling.
Well, you mentioned the Lehman Brothers thing, and me and you had talked last week privately, and I had watched a video from George Gammon was mentioning something about comparing it to a Lehman Brothers moment. I don't know if you've seen that video yet.
No. I don't follow Gammon.
He puts up some pretty interesting videos. I like his whiteboard videos, and that's one of these whiteboard videos. And that's where he talks about roughly it took about 6 months for the bleed out effect from the Lehman Brothers situation to really hit the market as far as a bottom. I agree. I don't think it'll take 6 months with crypto, with it being a faster moving space, probably 2 to 3 months, I would imagine. So I'm just kind of treading carefully and really paying attention to what's going on, looking at more of the companies that have had the exposure and really trying to pay attention also to the digital currency group thing, because if there is some fallout with digital currency group in any capacity, which could be really ultimately good for crypto in the end, that would definitely bring down some more downward action, in my opinion. So you agree though that we have not hit the bottom yet?
No, we haven't. And I talked to a guy, industry insider. He's been on the OTC side trading Bitcoin in big blocks, talking yards, meaning billions and more, on the institutional side. And he's saying that digital, what is it called? Digital
Currency Group, DCG.
Currency Group is out in the markets now raising funds, raising capital. They're looking to raise $2 billion. So,
yeah, I don't know if it's just specifically for Genesis, because
I don't know.
I don't see digital currency group personally. I don't see them sacrificing the body for an arm.
No. But exactly. It's for one of their arms. They're looking to raise $2 billion.
Right.
Billion now in the private equity.
And I think pretty much that has been already kind of priced in with the markets at this point. The Genesis lending situation. I think it's trying to determine what other companies have exposure and how much more effect the bleed out's going to be. But even with what you said, we're releasing this video I want to put it on my Patreon. If you want to upload it to your members today, that's cool. But we're going to release it on the 24th. Do you see within the next month or so, or till the end of the year, we normally see what we call Santa Claus rallies?
Yes.
Do you foresee something like that taking place in crypto, and do you see it being, if you do you see it being significant?
That's a good one. That's tough. Now that's tough. I don't know.
We have to revisit that question.
We're getting a rally now. We're pushing up now.
What are we at? Like 16?
Yeah, 16.5 roughly. So it's possible, man. It's possible. But that's a very short time period. I mean, we're talking about just over a month.
Shout out to Litecoin, man. It's up 36%.
Shout out to Litecoin,
36%. Another thing too, since we're talking about Ben Armstrong so much this episode, I don't know if I told you this or if you've seen it. This was yesterday. He was interviewing a blockchain backer, and as a guy in the XRP community, as a YouTuber. And he's got a really interesting look at cycles and market action. But one thing he was talking about was coins that have not hit their all-time low.
I talked about that the other day.
And that being, I guess, Chainlink is another, and Polygon is a third. Those three have not hit all-time lows. And then Ben was like, some light bulb went off in Ben's head that I wasn't able to quite capture what it was, and I want to try to talk with him more privately after Thanksgiving about it. But with some of the legislation that they're trying to push through on a federal level, he said that would benefit coins like Litecoin. So I think people are going to, and I had a conversation with Miss Teen Crypto on her channel yesterday about this as well. So if people want to check that out, because I think she should be like director of marketing for Litecoin at this point. I say that's a whole nother story. I'll tell you about that. She was supposed to be there ultimately, but I say a lot of people in crypto have discounted Litecoin because it's boring. You know, it doesn't have like a lot of the DeFi aspects. A lot of these projects have. The NFTs are quite.
The dollar is boring. The euro is
well,
boring.
That's the argument that I use is that when you talk about money, when you generally, if you go up to like one of your friends and start talking about the difference between money and currency, and you start talking to them about what is sound money, it's not an exciting conversation. Like, not many people are going to be like, yeah, I want to hear about this. Exactly. Most people are going to be like, shut up, man. Like, no, let's talk about something that we want to talk about. I don't want to talk about money. So yeah, money inherently, currency is boring. And if something works well and does what it's supposed to do, why are people punishing it? It's like Litecoin is being punished for doing what it's supposed to do and doing it well. Yep. Being a faster version of Bitcoin, and it was able to learn from all the mistakes that the original coders, Satoshi Nakamoto and everybody else included, with the inflation bugs and all the other things that have happened on the Bitcoin blockchain before the creation of Litecoin. So we've said it before, it's the oldest chain that's had zero problems. And if there's another chain that's been out before Litecoin that's had zero problems, please let me know. I don't think that there is one. And we might see a resurgence of some of these older projects.
So this is what I said. This is what I said in yesterday's video. Exactly, spot on. I said we're going in the next altcoin cycle. People are going to have an appreciation for the old school, boring literally the cryptocurrencies.
The ones that survived.
The Dashes, the Litecoins, the Bitcoins. You get what I'm saying? Those.
What about Neo and EOS?
No, those are programmable tokens. Those are.
Yeah, no, I get it.
No, yeah.
Digibyte, Digibyte might be one of those that.
Dash, Digibyte. Yeah, those are going to. I personally. Now, this is a Cryptodamus prediction right here. I think those coins are going to see a lot of love.
Sweet.
So, hey.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do this again, like revisit the market talk before we come to the Christmas season. And also something else that I want to put out to people that we'll talk briefly on. We're going to be recording another show, an uncensored conversation that'll go on both of our Rumble channels, and I put it on my Odyssey as well. So I encourage people to check that out. But me and Blood have been talking for quite some time about doing a show together, starting maybe a separate channel. So just stay tuned. We are trying to come up with some names for the show. Basically,
we already got a name. I don't know.
Are we going to call it that?
Oh, we are the Jarice.
The Jarucker Christ show.
The Jarucker Christ show.
Yeah, that sounds like some old black church or something, like a pastor at some old Baptist church.
Hey man, we are
in the hood.
The good word. We are preaching the good word of cryptocurrency. Absolutely.
So on the screen, I've got, I thought I did. Let me go ahead and correct myself here. I'm trying to multitask. I thought I was doing a screen share, and I totally was not. So here we go. I'm going to have links down below for all of this. If you're watching on CBTV, make sure you're checking out Rice TVX. I'll share those links here in a minute. And then if you're watching on Rice TVX, make sure you're checking out all things CBTV, Crypto Blood. Make sure you're checking out Crypto Blood IO. If you want to get 25% off on Bloodalytics, you can use Rice TVX 25 at checkout as a promo code, Rice TVX 25 to get 25% off Bloodalytics. I'll also have links down below for CBTV Crypto Blood on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to his Rumble channel, following over on the Twitters. Make sure you're signed up on ricetvx.com on my mailing list. Make sure you're subscribed to my crypto and economic channel on YouTube, Rice TVX. Make sure you subscribe to Rice Against the Grain, my new channel, and also make sure you're following me on the Rumbles as well. You got any final thoughts or anything you want to add before we wrap up this video, my friend?
No, man, that's it, man. I just encourage people to be hyper realist. That's kind of been my theme in my head the last few weeks. Just being hyper realist, not too overly optimistic, not being pessimistic. Look at the facts, analyze them objectively, and make your decisions based on that. And I think our channels are good sources for connecting the dots.
Well said.
I think you're very realistic. And I think I am as well. So
yeah, we definitely don't try to blow smoke up people's asses, and don't
Not
tell
at
people
all.
what we think they want to hear. We tell
Maybe
people
that's
what
why our
they need to
channels
hear.
haven't grown the way they should. I don't
You
know.
want to try to experiment and just start a channel where
Start
you just tell
shilling?
it to say, so, I would say act like somebody in particular, but I won't mention his name. So we'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to both of our channels. I will leave you with this, as I like to leave everybody. Again, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I encourage you to be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch you want to see in this matrix. Be the change you want to see in the world. Practice change. And until next time, holla!
Holla.